Hi guys! I know I haven't been posting as many videos as I planned to this year, but today I will be showing you my January wrap-up. I'm doing wrap-ups this year. As some of you may know because you follow my Goodreads or just, I think I mentioned it in the last video, but this year I'm participating in a reading challenge, not just for like books, but what type of books that I read. So it's kind of like a TBR jar, but instead of books inside, it has challenges. And this is my TBR jar. It has lovely Guardians of the Galaxy on it. And inside I have different kinds of challenges like some of the ones you will see in this video. In the month of January, I technically read 5 books, which is pretty good considering that there are 4 weeks in January, and because I also had to get into the groove of school. So there's that. But let's get this started. The first challenge I pulled from my TBR jar was read a play. So I read Into the Woods by Stephen Sondheim and James Lapin, which I don't actually own the book because I read it in a bookstore, but I really enjoyed that book. I had just seen the movie a few days before when I read it, and I was just interested in seeing the differences, and I just like reading plays in general. I was aware of the differences between the movie and the book before I read it, so if you are interested in the movie, I guess you can read it to see what the differences were. And if you didn't like the movie and are like, no, musical purist, then yeah, sure, go read the book because it is a really good play and a really good musical. I gave Into the Woods 4 out of 5 stars because while I did really enjoy the musical, I just prefer the movie to the original version because there are some things that are in the musical that I'm just not really a fan of. I don't really care for, but there are some parts that were cut out of the film that are so great. The next book I read in January was Cinder by Marissa Meyer. Yes, this is an audiobook because, one, I have decided to read an audiobook every month this year. That's one of the challenges that I just kind of set for myself. Because while I'm walking around campus, going to class, or just driving in the car, I like listening to audiobooks or podcasts, so I felt that this was a good start to that. And 2, because I was super sick in January around Martin Luther King weekend, so I wanted to read, but I also didn't want to open my eyes. So it was the perfect opportunity for me to get through this, and I really, really liked it. I thought Marissa Meyer did a really good job of modernizing it. If you don't know what this book is about because you're new, this is basically a sci-fi futuristic retelling of Cinderella, where Cinderella is a cyborg. So if you look at her bone, you can see robot bones. That made no sense. Anyway, I really enjoyed this. I am looking forward to picking up the audiobooks for Scarlet and Cress in February. In fact, I'm going to the library later to go and pick that up. But yes, 4 out of 5 stars, just because there are certain parts that I'm all like, okay, well, this is kind of far-fetched or whatever. And there were some plot twists that I saw coming, but overall, enjoyable. Hate Queen Lavanna, so that's good. And I can't wait to see where the rest of the series goes. Next challenge I pulled from my jar was read a book that takes place in your hometown. Okay, so I'm from South Florida, so there really weren't that many options I could go with. There were literally no books that take place in my hometown, and I didn't feel like reading a book that took place in Miami, and so I decided to go in a different direction and read a book that took place in the Everglades, because my town is literally set on the Everglades. So I decided to go with a book by the king of middle grade Florida fiction, and I read Chomp by Carl Hyacin. This book is about a father and son animal wrangling team in the Everglades who are hired to be the Everglades experts for a survivalist show that is being filmed there. Except that the host of the survivalist show is a total fraud and knows nothing about surviving in the wild. It was really interesting reading this book because there is a place by my house that is a lot like this, so to see how the family that actually owns that property and deals with these animals in these situations was pretty interesting. However, if I were to have a sentence to describe this book, it would be that escalated quickly, because it starts as a really like funny kind of sarcastic romp through the Everglades, and then very, very suddenly turns into like a way dramatic kind of, it's a dramatic situation. I did like the first half of this book, and I liked the very end of this book, but I thought that it was a little bit weird going towards the end, so I gave this like 3.5 stars I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, but it's actually like a 3.5. Next book I read this month qualified as a book from my childhood. As I am away at college, I don't really have that many books that are specifically from my childhood, and I'm sorry, but Harry Potter doesn't count because I didn't read Harry Potter in my childhood. I know, ridiculous. But anyway, so I decided to go for a quick read that I knew I would love and I haven't read in a really long time. And I read Dramacon by Svetlana Chemkova. Yes, yes. This is a bind-up, my edition is a bind-up, of a graphic novel series called Dramacon. There's 3 books in the series, and it is about a girl named Christy who goes to her very first anime manga convention, and all of the people she meets there, she specifically meets this one guy named Matt who's very like rude, but also very interesting and more than he seems. I had never looked up what this series was rated on Goodreads, and it is around a 4.67 or something, which is crazy. I first read this series when I was around 14 years old, so that's why it qualifies, because that was 7 years ago. And the last time I read this series was in 2011. So I felt that I should give it a go. It is around 600 pages, but because it is a graphic novel, it is very, very quick to get through. If you are looking for a graphic novel series that is just hilarious and sweet with great artwork, but kind of relatable and realistic situations, there is a near rape experience in this series, but it is rated T, so no one actually gets raped, I promise. This series is great. It is one of my favorite series. I give this 4.5 stars. Okay, so that was my January wrap-up. I hope you enjoyed it. All of the information I usually have below is down below, and I will hopefully see you again next time. Bye!